You may have heard of Martin Luther King Jr., but do you know his entire story? The United States will take a day of remembrance to remember Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American minister and social activist that fought against racism in the 1960s. He is notable for his acts of peaceful protest and speeches. He delivered over 2,000 speeches over his life. Michael King Jr., born in January of 1929, was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. He was raised in a middle-class family and lived with two other siblings. His father, Michael Sr., was a preacher that taught at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. In 1944, at the age of 15, MLK went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. At Morehouse, he found a liking for medicine and law. From 1948 to 1951, he attended Crozer Theological Seminary, where he familiarized himself with Gandhi's teachings of nonviolence. In 1951, he earned his bachelor's degree and then went to Boston University, where he received his doctorate. In 1953, he married a woman named Coretta Scott, and they had 4 children together. 2 years later, an event that would change the course of American history occurred, with King in the center of it all. On December 1st, 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white man. For this action, she was arrested. The public was outraged at this, and a newly formed association called the Montgomery Improvement Association started a bus boycott. MLK was chosen to be the leader of this association. Though he was overall very popular, there were some people who hated his work, and this showed when King's home was bombed on January 30th, 1956. This did not stop him, however. He continued going and founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Through SCLC, King lectured about racial problems throughout the country, as well as meeting with other civil rights and religious leaders. Throughout his time of fighting racial injustice, King came to realize that the most effective way to fight segregation was to use peaceful and non-violent acts to protest. By this point, Martin Luther King was known internationally for his peaceful protests, speeches, and lectures. His campaigns were supported by the likes of John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. In 1963, during a sit-in at a lunch counter, police used dogs and fire hoses against the protesters. Many people, including King himself, were arrested, and not just adults, but many school children as well. Later that year, King joined several other people in organizing the March on Washington, which was one of the most historic, peaceful demonstrations against racism. During the march, people sang, "We shall overcome," which shows how hopeful these people were to create a new world. During the march, Martin Luther King gave one of the most famous speeches ever known. Known as the "I Have a Dream" speech, in which he told of dreams he wished to achieve, he said that he wanted his children to grow up in a world where no one was discriminated against because of their physical appearance. He said that he did not want them judged for what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. A few years later, while staying at a hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, King was shot and killed. The day before he was killed, he spoke of seeing the promised land. Whether he saw the end of segregation or his life, we can never be sure. But today we celebrate King. Though he made mistakes and bad decisions in his life, he, like all of us, was not perfect. But he fought for what was right. Thank you for listening to this video. Be sure to subscribe and like this video. Let's try to make it to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. Goodbye!